What's all this commotion outside? Oh my God. Hitler is plowing my driveway. Oh no, there's more. There's panzers plowing everywhere. Oh, look, and there's even more. You know, I should really write an op-ed about this.
Hey, welcome in. Well, if you get the sense that the media these days is insane and intolerant, well, that's because they are. Here we have an op-ed from the Los Angeles Times, not some obscure blog, right? This is the Los Angeles Times. This is like one of the biggest newspapers in the United States. Essentially, mainstream media. Here's the column. What can you do about the trumpites next door? Well, that is a dilemma, isn't it? I mean, they're trumpites. They are these category of people called trumpites. This, just homogeneously evil group, right? Anybody who supported Trump is just part of this homogeneously evil group, and they're right next door. It's terrifying. Well, something awful must have happened to this journalist, this Virginia Heffernan. I mean, what did these scary trumpites do to her? Let's see. The trumpites next door to our pandemic getaway, who seem as devoted to the ex-president as you can get without being Q fans, just plowed our driveway without being asked and did a great job. So I guess at this point it's safe to call her a survivor, right? Can we call her a survivor? She survived this, with the trumpites plowing her driveway. Just going to interrupt for 1 second to say, if you like this content, subscribe so you can see more. Thanks a lot. Now, from this, I think we can divine that, as she says, they seem as devoted to the ex-president as you can get without being Q fans. So I think we can reasonably assume she must have talked to these people. She must have talked to them to have some idea of what they're thinking. Because I think her default may well be that all Trump supporters are Q fans. If you support Trump, then you must be into the Q thing. So she must have talked to them to divine this, right? And so that would mean that they've also talked to her, and I would assume know her ideas on politics, and yet still plowed her driveway, doing something that she obviously would never do. She can't understand just random acts of kindness, right? So clearly this is not something she would have done for them, and this puts her in a bad position. This puts her in one of those, are we the baddies? Are we really the baddies? That is the position she's been put into. A cognitive dissonance where, well, maybe they're the good people. Maybe they're the nice people. Maybe it's not me. Maybe I'm just a bitter, mean journalist. Could that be? No, it can't be. Let's see. How is she going to resist demands for unity in the face of this act of aggressive niceness? Aggressive niceness. Maybe it's just niceness. Maybe they're not being aggressive. She says, of course, on some level, I realize I owe them thanks. You do. Not on some level. You just owe them thanks. They did something nice for you. You should appreciate that. But she goes on to say, how much thanks? How much thanks should she owe them? You're way overthinking this. They're just nice people. Sorry. And let's see, what does she say? She says, the neighbors are staunch partisans of blue lives, so they support law enforcement, and there aren't a lot of anything other than white lives in this neighborhood. White lives. Now, this writer, I looked her up, she's white, so I guess she's one of those white lives that apparently is, I guess, less valuable to her. I mean, there's no reason to say that. Unless you're making a point, some sort of judgmental point. And also, this is just a bit of a non sequitur as well. Is she saying that only white people support law enforcement? That's just not true. Anyway, she goes on here to compare it to Hezbollah, the Shiite Islamist party in Lebanon. The Shiite Islamist political party in Lebanon also gives things away for free. So yeah, they're basically the same thing as Hezbollah. Let's see, the same is also true with Louis Farrakhan, who currently helms the Nation of Islam. The Southern Poverty Law Center classifies him as a dangerous anti-Semite. Much of his flock says he's just a little screwy and unfailingly magnanimous. So they're also now the same as Louis Farrakhan, who is objectively speaking, an anti-Semite. Now listen to this. When someone helps you when you're down or snowed in, it's almost impossible to regard them as a blight on the world. These are the crucial parts here that I'm showing you. Blight on the world. So she's saying she's struggling to see her neighbors who plowed her lawn. She's struggling not to see them as a blight on the world. Just think about this. This is the LA Times, okay? This is a big circulation newspaper. She is perfectly comfortable writing things like this. This is insanity. Anyway, she goes on. In fact, you're more likely to be overwhelmed with gratitude and convinced of the person's inherent goodness. That's what she's trying to avoid here, seeing inherent goodness. Anyway, she goes on here to make another comparison. You might end up like the upper middle class family I stayed with in France as a teenager. They did not attend a citywide celebration for the 100th birthday of Charles de Gaulle, the war hero who orchestrated the liberation of his country from Nazi Germany in 1944. They did have several portraits of Philippe Pétain, Nazi collaborator, on their wall. Is this true? Right? This feels so on the nose. It just, I'm just sorry. I'm not entirely convinced that this person is telling the truth. First off, it's insane to compare your neighbors with this if it's true. And I say that very skeptically, if it's true, right? Anyway, get this part here. When I screwed up the courage to ask how it was for them during the occupation, the lady of the house replied, "We were happy because the Nazis were very Polish." I didn't know the word, so I excused myself to consult a French-English dictionary. I was in tears when I found the entry polite. So she's saying that they liked the Nazis because they were polite. Again, does this feel true to you? Does that feel true? I don't know. Maybe it is. My point is that it has the sense of something that was made up to provide an emotional argument for a terrible argument. So what do we have? We have the neighbors are Hezbollah. They're Louis Farrakhan. And they're also Nazi collaborators. So that's what we've gotten from the neighbor shoveling her driveway. But why is she really so suspicious of her neighbors? Well, she goes on to make the same kind of ludicrous assertions that we see constantly. My neighbors supported a man who showed near murderous contempt for the majority of Americans. Near murderous contempt for the majority of Americans. Really? Of course, they never issue any actual examples of this near murderous contempt, other than just vague charges of undermining democracy or some other nonsense, because he used courts the same way that every president always has. Anyway, it really doesn't deserve too much of our time. Let's see. The Capitol has just been desecrated, as it has been by leftists on multiple occasions. But there must be some reconciliation possible, right? Of course. Here at the end, she says, "But I can offer a standing invitation to make amends, not with a snowplow, but by recognizing the truth about the Trump administration, and more importantly, by working for justice for all those whom the administration harmed. Only when we work shoulder to shoulder to repair the damage of the last 4 years will we even begin to dig out of this storm." So basically, you just agree with us. That's when we can have unity. And we know that actually that's not even the case, right? They don't even care about that. Because by uniting, they would lose their enemy. And they don't want to do that. They need enemies, right? But here we have it. Bend the knee and then we can be friends. Even though that's not actually true. Anyway, this is just a great example of how captured the mainstream media has become by ideological lunatics. This person is crazy. All of this over a plowed driveway. Just imagine that. Just imagine that. This is somebody who's saying she does not want to see her neighbors as human beings. She does not want to even consider the fact that she might be wrong about them. No, the only solution is for everybody who disagrees with her to surrender to her neuroses. That's it. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. Please subscribe, like, and share. That really helps me out. If you just like to listen, there's the podcast, Radio Baloney. It's on pretty much every platform. If you look for it, you will find it. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time.